Hey, PopRockers, Paul here with you. Hey, I recently sat down with Candice Monique from the Women of Soul Collective. She's just released a new single, I Am Enough, and it's on the album Feel Good, released by the Women of Soul Collective. It's out on the 2nd of June. But before we go there, before we have that interview, if you like what we're doing, simply give us a thumbs up, and that'll much appreciated. Or you can head to the Apple Store or the Android Store, and you can download our app, and you can listen to us 24/7, no matter where you are. So you can download our free app. And if you really, really like us, you can like, love, share, and subscribe to all our social media channels. So if you really like us, give us a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you after the interview. Hey, Pop Rockers. Today we have Candice Monique with me. Now, I've got to be really careful because I've been slipping up and saying Candice Monroe. I have no idea where I got Candice Monroe from, but it's Candice Monique, who is actually part of a very special thing that's happening. It's called Women of Soul. Candice, how are you? And welcome to Pop Rock Radio.
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
No, we've got to have it. We've been doing a follow-up, like a series on Women of Soul on the internet. On our website.
Okay.
And we spoke to Chelsea yesterday, so I'll be editing that video down. And now I'm lucky enough to speak to you. Now you've got a song out that's on the album coming out on the 2nd of June.
That's right. Yes.
Yep. I Am Enough.
Yes, that's the one. So yeah, there was 2 singles released at the same time. So
Yep.
one of them being Lifeline, that was sung on the album by an incredible Melbourne vocalist, Rita Satch.
Yep.
And the other one being I Am Enough, which I was honoured to sing as part of the recording for the Women of Soul album upcoming. The album obviously titled Feel Good, out on the 2nd of June. Very exciting. But the single is already out, which is even more exciting. And yeah, so I Am Enough, there was 5 women songwriters involved in creating the tune, and a whole bunch of super talented women musicians, producers, engineers involved in the recording. And it's so exciting that it's been released and it's out in the world.
Yeah. Is there a video clip for it?
At this stage, no. But you never know. That could be something. You never say never. There's definitely some live footage out there. So we did do an International Women's Day show. I'm pretty sure it was 2021. At the Recital Centre in Melbourne here. And so the live footage of me performing I'm Enough at that show is on YouTube. So you can check that out. So you get to see the full live band, horn section, backing vocals, everything. And so you get a feel for the tune as it was pre-recording.
Cool. Hey, but talking about YouTube, in our article that we've got on our website, for the first one of Women of Soul, we've actually got a video clip of one of your tracks with Candice Monique and the Optics.
That's right. Yeah. So that'd probably be something from our first album. Yeah.
Yeah. Who are the Optics?
Okay, so the Optics, that's my crew. So when I first sort of moved to Melbourne and started a band, these are the guys that came together and started writing music with when I first here. Ivan Kachoyan, he's on drums and production. Lucas Taranto on bass and Mikey Chan on guitar. The 4 of us have, been working together for many years. So the first album came out, I think, in 2010 on Freestyle Records out of the UK. And I think we'd been writing for a good couple of years before that. We're looking at where are we now? 2023. So sort of 15 years, of making music together.
So you've been around. Oh, the evil twins are coming in. You've been around. So I've been doing some research. I noticed that you've been around so long. You still have a MySpace page, and it's active.
Oh, I've been trying to get into that page forever to get some of the pictures from that MySpace page, because there's pictures of my eldest daughter that I don't actually have copies of anymore after a hard drive of mine died. If you could direct me or send me a link to my own MySpace, I haven't been able to get into it for years, and I would love those pictures of my daughter. still on that site. But yeah, we've been around for that long that we predate Facebook. That's makes me feel kind of right
But
now.
on the screen up there, that's it.
Oh my gosh!
That's
Wow.
your MySpace page. It's got
What a
two
blast from the past.
people connected. You've got 2,500 or 2,800 people connected, and there's your music down the side there, so we can. Yeah, there you
Wow.
go. It's still
That's great.
still
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Now, your style has been referenced as it fuses neo soul, hip hop, spoken word, and soul. What's the difference between neo soul and soul?
Look, there's a lot of debate about this, and a lot of people would say essentially soul music is soul music,
Yeah,
and creating subgenres, potentially is futile.
yeah,
But I guess when people do refer to neo soul, I think they're mostly referring to that music that came out sort of like late '90s, early
yeah,
2000s, in the era of sort of your Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, D'Angelo,
yeah,
those kind of artists. And at that time, that music was obviously hot
yeah,
and was such a breakaway, I guess, from traditional soul.
yeah,
That it sort of many people felt like it needed its own label
yeah,
to differentiate it as a genre. Whereas now, I guess we see I guess new school kind of music that is,
yeah,
neo soul from the early 2000s isn't exactly new anymore. It's been
yeah,
around, and I guess what was interesting about my work with the Optics was that we referenced, I guess, a lot more of the old school soul. We were
yeah,
kind of playing music that sort of had, the
yeah,
essence, I guess, more of that kind of 70s vibe, but at the same time, it still had elements of, I guess, that more new school neo soul sound
yeah,
bleeding into it, and so I guess when we talk about newer artists doing some of that old school sounding kind of music, that
yeah,
was, I guess, where Freestyle was at. Freestyle Records, who
yeah,
we signed with at that time, they were releasing a lot of that type of music. And, we talk about sort of like Amy Winehouse,
yeah,
newer artists, but doing music that sounds like it's from that
yeah,
era, Electric Empire, another example of like amazing brand new music that sounds like it was made
yeah,
in the 70s. And yeah, so I guess I in terms of what I listened to and what I enjoyed and where my heart was at in terms of, if I wanted to just chill and
yeah,
relax on a Saturday afternoon in my kitchen, I'd be listening to, I guess, the stuff that was labeled neo soul, but yet the music that I was kind of making with my
yeah,
crew, referenced a lot of the older music that
yeah,
influenced neo soul to become what it was. That was the stuff that those artists were listening to when they were growing
yeah,
up. And so it was kind of important, I guess, for me as an artist at that point to kind of go back and like really pay attention to and learn,
yeah,
the music from that era. Moving to Melbourne as well, and listening to radio stations like PBS and Triple
yeah,
R, listening to a lot of the soul shows on local community radio that were really paying homage to the old school soul music of the 60s and 70s. Is
yeah,
it was important, I think, to go back and like absorb
yeah,
that, and you hear it come out in what we make,
yeah.
as a band.
Cool. Hey, but you've been uh, what I've got here is that you're a poet, a lyricist, and a vocalist. Would that be about right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess that's an interesting kind of way to describe it. I guess to go back even further, I started as a dancer.
yeah,
So I was for many years doing like dancing lots of different styles of dance. Did a bit of like theater,
yeah,
did a bit of musical theater. So I was kind of always singing, as part of that sort of like, TV and theater type
yeah,
stuff, as a younger person. And as a creative outlet, I guess all through sort of school poetry,
yeah,
written poetry was something that I'd always
yeah.
done. I think I was published as a poet by age
Oh,
11
cool.
in some kind of poetry anthology doing
Yeah,
something from the time ago. I have memories of this. Um, and my first love, being neo soul and hip hop music,
yeah,
obviously always influenced by MCs and
yeah,
rappers, And so I guess when it came time when music sort of became a big part of my life, I sort of transitioned, I guess, from that written poetry to,
Yeah.
spoken word poetry. I loved all the Def Jam stuff. There's an emerging spoken word scene happening here
Yeah.
in Australia at the time. And I kind of moved from performing my poems to singing my poems to writing
Yeah.
songs, and sort of transitioned into music that
Yeah.
way. Yeah, and
But then,
so it's always remained, I guess, a part of my style. So
yeah.
pretty much any show that you've ever seen me do with the Optics, there'll be an improv jam where the band will improv
Yeah.
whatever style they're feeling that day, whether it be some kind of jazz thing, whether it's funk, whether it's some kind of old school blues. And I would read a spoken word piece over the top of
Yeah.
that improv jam. And that was like a hallmark of our shows, during that whole
Yeah.
era kind of thing. So it was something that's like carried right through. And I guess one of my biggest influences musically being Michelle Ndego-Ochoa, who, her music heavily features spoken
Yeah.
word and rap.
Yeah.
And she does it so
Yeah.
well. And her first two albums, Plantation Lullabies, Peace Beyond Passion, were played constantly in my household growing up. And that definitely had a big influence on the way that I intertwined, I guess, spoken word and poetry into our
Yeah.
music, as we sort of
Well,
developed as a band.
but this blown away a lot of my questions, because one of them was, where do you get the inspiration for your music? Where's that from? You've done it. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I guess that's one
Yeah.
inspiration.
Yeah.
In terms of like
What
uh,
about?
inspiration around the content of the
Yeah.
songs. It's really varied. The first album had a bunch of heartbreak songs and love songs, but also had a song that I had written for my eldest
Yeah.
daughter when she was born that actually came out of a little lullaby that I used to sing
Yeah.
her when she was really tiny, when she was a newborn baby. And I took that melody that I used to sing her to our guitarist, and we played around with that, and we actually created a whole song out of it called
Oh,
My Child. And she still talks
yeah.
about that song to this day. She knows that's her
Oh,
song.
that's pretty cool.
And I just had my second
Yeah.
child, a big gap between babies, and my eldest is saying to me, when are you going to write a song for
Yeah.
my sister?
Yeah.
Where's that going? So yeah, in terms of inspiration around content, it can be quite varied.
Yeah.
And obviously my songs always have have often had you know a bit of sort of content that is a bit
Yeah.
outspoken around my views,
Yeah.
politically, spiritually. All these kinds of things were important to me. It was important that the music had some kind of a
Yeah.
message at some point. I didn't want to just write love songs and heartbreak
Yeah.
songs. So yeah, Revolution on the first album as well is one song that kind of speaks to that. But you see that sort of trickled all through the lyrical content of all of the
Yeah.
tracks. And even when I've done some projects with other artists, producers outside of stuff with the Optics and whatever, you often hear that peppered through the features that I've done on lots
Yeah.
of other people's songs and in other projects. I did a mixtape in, oh god, it would have been 2012, I think, or somewhere around
Yeah.
then. That you'll hear a lot of that
Well,
as well.
I've just ditched my questions because no, because you said that you're outspoken, and I'm really interested. Every time I speak to someone, I throw in a controversial question, and they're not really controversial. They're just there to get our minds thinking. But you said that you're rather outspoken politically, musically, and whatever. I was into politics way back. I was involved with the Australian Democrats, which they were supporters of the LGBTQI and a community. They were a pretty good little party, but they collapsed internally. So I'm thinking maybe we should talk about something a bit controversial about what you've done. What do you stand up? What music? Women in music, obviously. I spoke to Chelsea about this yesterday. She's strong behind this and getting more women into music, more writers, more producers. Yeah, what do you think of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure, exactly what
Yeah,
Chelsea went into yesterday, but
from
just
your own point of view.
I
Yeah,
guess, I find it astounding that the statistics around the royalties paid to
Yeah.
women musicians in Australia is something like only 10% of
Yeah.
all Australian music royalties. So in terms of like songwriting, and where we're at,
Yeah.
we are very, very far from gender
Yeah.
equity.
What do you think about
Um,
with that? Like you were saying about the got the 10%, very small percentages. Now
yeah.
you have these shows, um, the singing shows, and they bring these young kids and they put them through the churn mill really quickly. Do you reckon that's a good thing for trying to get diversity and get people involved in the music industry? That's and getting that equality in payments and singing, songwriting, royalties, and things like that? Or do you just
Mm. It's a big question. There's a
yeah,
few parts to that. What I do think it is good for is
yeah,
representation. So in the sense that we will see young people of
yeah,
color, LGBT young
yeah,
people, and even age
yeah,
diversity of of people getting up on stage and performing in a mainstream
yeah,
environment to a mainstream audience, um, and challenging, I guess, a lot of the
yeah,
barriers that have existed in the Australian music industry for many, many, many years, including more
yeah,
women being seen on screen. Um, it That is a good
yeah,
thing, and I support that, and I think that's fantastic. I guess what I question though is how much agency and power do those artists
yeah,
have, I guess, over what is then marketed during their
yeah,
career post those shows, and the contracts that kind of um, mean that they are sort of locked in with a certain label or a certain
yeah,
management company for a certain period of time after those shows. And oftentimes, do they get the opportunity to actually write the songs that they then
yeah,
perform? And are they getting royalties for the, other than mechanical royalties, they're getting songwriting
yeah,
royalties? I think when we talk about development of artists, there's got to be more to it than putting people on screen and putting them through a show
yeah,
and then having them sing some songs that a ghostwriter's written maybe, or
yeah,
and being sort of within the scope of what's going to then make money for the people that invested in putting them up on that show.
yeah,
Like, I guess what I feel development needs to include is looking at helping people to hone their
yeah,
craft and hone their skills over many years, not just a few months they're involved in a TV show.
yeah,
Giving women opportunities to be involved in things that I guess are non-traditional areas for women in the music
yeah,
industry, like engineering, like production, like music management, where traditionally there have been less women
yeah.
in these roles in the music
Did,
industry. And even in terms of musicians and playing in live bands, it's been an amazing experience with Women of
yeah,
Soul to actually be on a stage with a band entirely of women and non-binary
yeah,
artists. And that's something that, and is very, very rare. I think there's only one time before Women of Soul that ever happened for me, and that was during the Oz Soul Collective days back in Sydney, working with Alpha
yeah,
Mama and playing with her band. And this time with Women of Soul, getting to do that with a full live band,
yeah,
including a horn section, including backing vocals like this. It's
yeah,
incredible. And but it shouldn't be something
yeah,
extraordinary. It should be something that we could see all of the time, because there's been enough investment in development of women
yeah,
musicians from the get-go,
yeah,
that there is a plentiful supply of women musicians out there who've been able to not only hone their craft, but have been supported to further their skills and their careers, and get to the point where they are able to sort of make their mark in the scene at the same level as
yeah,
any male musician, and be taken seriously and be paid to work
yeah,
and play in many, many bands and gain that
yeah,
experience. And along that pathway, there are currently just so many
yeah.
barriers for women musicians.
Did you hear about?
And
Did you hear Ben Lee was saying that maybe the writers, music writers, and things like that should go on strike, like the TV and script writers in Hollywood? Do you reckon, or the
gosh.
female artists and writers, and just go on strike and see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I think, any sort of industrial action,
Yeah,
I guess you could say, that involves women. making their presence known by, you know, going, hey,
Yep.
let's see how you deal without us for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna raise some eyebrows,
Yep.
but at the same time, you know, as much as I support that, and whoever wants to participate in that, I support that. It's also something that only people with a certain amount of privilege can really participate in.
Yeah.
And yeah, that it sort of means that you know, can it ever really be a fair way of making that point? You know,
I'm going to get into
yeah,
trouble
because
now, right? We're getting really controversial. Is that I call it white privilege music.
yeah, 100%.
And there's a few people out there, and like it's not just males. There is a mix of male female in there, but they produce this music and they pump it out, and they pump it out album after album after album. They make film clip after film clip after film clip, and the music to me is absolutely crap. They just do it because they've got the money and the influence behind them to do it. They just do it just because they can. They don't care if they don't. They don't
Yeah,
care if they don't make any money. They don't care if they because they've already got money behind them. They don't care. They just we'll go make this crap music and they try selling it off as indie music or something like that. But it's not. It's not really. Yeah, yeah. I'll get into trouble.
yeah. I hear what you're saying in the sense that when you have a certain amount of privilege that includes financial
Yep.
privilege, then that allows you to be able to automatically push your
Yep.
music career and the release of your recorded music
Yep.
a lot further than many people in the community who don't have that financial privilege and that financial
Yeah.
backing.
Yep.
And that makes a huge difference. And, you know, it does make you think really about, you know, in terms of a level playing
Yep.
field for artists. You know, it's not a
No.
meritocracy. It's not based on merit. It's not based on talent. In a lot of ways, it's like who's been able to get their stuff out there
Yep.
at a certain level. And so there's the financial privilege. There's also
Yeah.
circumstantial in terms of like, you know, your personal circumstances and the time that you're able to put into things.
Yeah.
You know, what are your family responsibilities?
Yeah.
You know, what are your community responsibilities? You know, are you, you know, struggling to, you know, make ends meet, having to work full time and therefore not able to
Yep.
put as much time in as somebody who's living off the trust
Yeah.
fund and can put all the world into it, you know, all this.
If there's anyone out there that's living off a trust fund and wants to support them, you throw it this way. So
it's access to studios. It's access to you know, other people within the industry, being able to pay other people within the industry to be able to, you know, engineer your sessions and, you know, master your stuff. It's resources, essentially, you know, and if you lack access to those resources, and we know, you know, that privilege, you know, white privilege, financial privilege, all these things do create barriers to many people in the community around all of those resources, access to all of those resources.
Well, hopefully, Women of Soul is one of the first steps or the couple of steps into changing a bit of that because if we get back to
creating
Women of Soul,
opportunities for women.
25 females or female identifying artists would have been. How many people would you have been involved with at any one time?
During the latest project, the songwriting project, or oh gosh, so look, there were times when we were all together in the room. You know, the songwriting intensive that happened, I think there were groups of sort of like 5 or 4 women that would sort of be grouped together to write songs, and then you'd switch groups, you know, and work with a different group. So there was times when it was kind of, you know, just the 3 of us in a lounge room writing a song. But then there were other times when we all came back together as a collective, every single one of us that had been involved, performed songs to each other.
It would have been awesome to be a fly on the wall. Or was there a camera crew following you around and documenting all this?
I don't think there was a camera crew, but there was definitely pictures taken. There was some video taken. You know, it wasn't a full production in terms of a camera crew. It probably deserved it, but you know, best we could with what we had, and had some amazing people from within the collective, you know, take some great footage and pictures. And like I think you know, that event was phenomenal. Like just being like, it was so special because it was just us. It was just us within the collective performing songs to each other. But you know, it really I guess, highlighted for all of us how amazing all of the women in that room were at what they
How
do.
empowering did it make you feel? Empowered.
It was incredible. It was so
Yeah,
good, and for me at that time, I'd actually been going through
yeah,
it, a bunch of stuff, during that time, and I hadn't actually been able to write as much as what I would have liked
yeah,
to during that intensive. But what was amazing about it for me was that I was still included.
yeah,
Despite the fact that I hadn't been able to be as, I guess, productive,
yeah,
as what I might have liked. Um, I was still included in
yeah,
that, and what it meant was that then when it came to the
yeah,
album, I was still around and was asked to sing one of the songs, and that I contributed to some
yeah,
writing on as well, and so in a sense, the collective kind of carried
yeah.
me through
Well, that's
a
yeah.
time I wasn't able to create the way that I normally
Oh,
would.
that's great.
Um,
Yeah,
when you talk about women supporting
yep,
women, that's what it is. That's what it is, and that's what we can do
yeah.
for each other,
See,
and that's what
I'm
we
I'm
give
not
each
really.
other.
See, I get when people say it's women supporting women, excuse me, or men supporting men, or gay people supporting gay people, or whoever. I'm pretty. I get really defensive on that because I think it shouldn't be a man supporting a man or whatever. It should be people supporting people, regardless of what you identify. We should be it should be everyone supporting everyone. Excuse me, get a bit dry. I should need a drink, but yeah, yeah, I think people should be supporting people. It's good when like with myself,
That would be ideal.
but yeah,
I think in a world where,
I'm a bit
the
naive.
systemic barriers that we all
Yeah,
experience with our different identities didn't exist, that would be the ideal. But I think in a world where there are,
yeah,
things that get in the way, and there are systemic issues, it is important, to create those
yeah,
spaces where we can support each other, where there's solidarity and where there's a shared
yeah,
experience of those barriers and a shared experience of certain types of oppression. It doesn't necessarily mean that we don't accept or want
yeah,
support from outside of that, but I think that there's something about
yeah,
empowering about having that support from people who have those same
yeah,
experiences
yeah,
of barriers that you do, and it means something, and it does sort of increase that feeling of
yeah,
empowerment,
yeah.
yeah.
Alrighty, well, we're going to get into our two segments that we do: the bestest music quiz and get to know. So, what I'm going to let you choose. Which one would you like to do first? Would you like to do the music quiz or get to know?
We'll go with get to know
All right.
first because the music quiz could be dicey here, depending on what what gets asked and what genres we're looking
Yeah,
at.
no, these are just well, the way I've been describing them, they're like 10 questions that you probably wouldn't get asked by an adult. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you, you definitely won't be get asked these questions in any other interview. So, are you ready? Okay,
Let's do it.
question one. These are the exact same questions that we asked Chelsea last night too. So we'll be able,
Oh,
we'll be
okay.
able to,
Well, I haven't heard them
yeah,
yet, so yeah,
yeah.
these are new to me.
Normally they're random, but I thought, well, let's see, let's see if we can get some synergy going. All right, question number one. I've got to keep looking there. Question number one: Coke or Pepsi?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Coke, but only because my dad used to work for
All
them.
right. If you couldn't do what you were doing now, what would you be doing?
Wow. Probably decorating cake. That's another side
Oh,
hustle that I've always really enjoyed, baking and decorating
I
cake.
love, I love eating cake. Hey,
I mean, at the moment, I'm on maternity leave at home
yeah,
with a very small baby, so it's kind of hard because I'm not even doing what I normally
yeah.
do now.
Oh, oh, no. Hey, name a place you want to visit before you die.
Yeah, definitely want to take there's two places. Want to take my daughter, my eldest daughter, to Comoros, where
Yep,
her dad's side of the family from, and my youngest daughter back to Namibia to see
yep.
family there too. So yeah.
Cool. Okay, who would be your biggest fan, your mum or your dad?
Gosh, I think that's a really hard question because I know that they're both incredibly supportive of my music career and always have been.
Yep.
I think mum probably definitely sort of fangirls a bit more in terms
Yep.
of like like she has an online presence more so. My dad doesn't even have Facebook,
Yep.
so mum's the one who's always kind of sharing stuff and
Yeah.
like yeah. But I definitely know that dad's always been
Yeah.
behind it and very proud of everything I've done. So.
Yeah. Okay. Where is your favourite venue to perform at?
Ooh, good question.
Yep.
Look, I think so far best ever actually that gig at the Melbourne Recital Centre was amazing.
Yeah.
The sound in that place was amazing.
If I remember rightly, Chelsea
Yeah.
said the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to compare them now. I'm gonna have to compare them.
it's blown a lot of other venues that I thought were brilliant out of the
Yeah.
water. Just hearing the quality of sound in that venue,
Yeah.
and to sing there was bucket list stuff. So
I think I've got more than 10 questions. I have. Anyway, we'll keep going. We'll keep
okay.
going. Yeah, I've got more than 10 questions. That's all right. What's a food you can't get enough of?
Mango.
Mango. Yep.
Mhm.
Your all-time favourite song, or your
Ooh.
all-time favourite song at the moment?
That is a really tough question. I'm gonna say the cover of that Bill Withers track that Michelle did. Who was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your worst bad habit?
My worst bad habit. Gosh, there's too many. Chocolate. Chocolate. It's probably my best bad habit, actually.
Yeah. Okay. What's the best pickup line given or received?
Oh. Um. But gosh, I have to think about that one. I'm just trying to think like what my partner said when he slid in my DMs when we first got together. Yeah, it was just super simple. Are you single?
That's cool. Were you single?
Yes, very.
Yep. Lucky for him, wasn't it? How embarrassing, how hard would it be if you like, no, sorry, I'm not. But anyway.
Well, actually, he followed that up with, I've had a crush on you for 10 years.
Oh, that's
And I was like,
pretty
man,
cool.
why didn't you say anything all this time?
All right.
Married, but apparently not.
Last question. What is your spirit animal?
Oof, no. Oh no. Yeah, I have no spirit animal because I respect indigenous cultures too much to sort of appropriate what people have westernized as what a spirit animal might be.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna nah. If you want to ask me a question like what kind of animal do you think my personality maybe represents best?
Yeah, go. Yeah. What's that?
Animal would I be if I came back in another life as an animal?
Yeah. What would you have been in a previous life?
In a previous life, I'm gonna guess that I would have been a cat because there's just been cats around me always as pets, and
Yep.
that whole like independent, doing their own thing, and very sure of themselves kind of vibe. I feel
Yep.
like that would be me.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Anyway, moving along, we've got our bestest music quiz.
Okay, hopefully I don't flunk this too bad.
Hopefully
I did a lot of
right.
trivia in my day job during COVID to kind of keep ourselves amused, and I sucked at it really badly, just generally. I think more because I panicked than because I don't know the answers, but
Well, keeping with the theme of Women of Soul, what I did,
okay.
I went through our questions. I got a pile of questions, and I went through and I got 10 questions that are related to females.
Okay.
So just keep with the theme of things. Now, these are the exact same questions that we asked Chelsea last time, so I'll be able to go back and compare. And It'd be good to see how good. I think she only got one or two wrong. She blew it away. Question number 1. Tanya Doko is from the duo Bachelor Girl. True or false?
I have no idea.
True. Yep.
I'm gonna say true.
Yep, true. She was the song Buses and Trains. We spoke to Tanya not so long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't really something I listened to a whole lot back in the day. But
yeah, because she's more pop orientated.
I knew the name. That's good. That's a start.
Okay, which of the following is not an Adele album? 19, 21, 27, or 30?
I have no idea.
27.
And you know what? I think this is a reflection also of the fact that these days music is marketed as singles so much that oftentimes people don't even know an album.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
That's me.
The worst thing is these are all like pop and rock orientated and not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, Adele would be considered potentially, soulful, soul ballads.
Yeah. Anyway, Alanis Morissette is from Adelaide. True or false?
False. That's someone I did listen to a little bit in high school.
It's amazing how many people get that wrong.
I'm from Adelaide, and she definitely was not from my hometown.
Oh, whereabouts in Adelaide?
I grew up sort of in the south, in Ranella, Woodcroft area. 5 and 6 girl. And then later on, when my parents split, they moved, and I've sort of stayed everywhere from Edwardstown to Croydon to Millswood to
I lived in Adelaide for a little bit.
Yeah,
dark period of my life. Coolio released a song 10 days after his death with Aussie rapper Cardia. True or false?
I'm gonna say false.
Yeah, but it's true. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Coolio come when he was over here in Australia, and they he was recording a song, and this is how Cardi explained it. Is that shit? They were recording a song, and they there was something missing, and he heard her singing in the studio like next door, and liked the sound, called her in, and she came up with the lyrics that matched his song, and perfect match.
Things have happened. That's amazing.
No, it was good coming together, but it was sad that he passed away.
Yeah.
All right. You're not going to get any of these questions. Wendy Matthews was in the band The Models and Absent Friends. True or false?
I know Wendy Matthews. I don't know either of those two bands. So 50-50. Say false?
True.
Okay.
Yep. You might get this one. We spoke about a strange fact about this question last night, but Cyndi Lauper's song "Time After Time" is one of the most covered songs of all time. True or false?
Potentially true.
It is true, and one of the weird things about that song is that being covered by so many people. It was off Cyndi Lauper's first album, which was made up of primarily covers.
Ah.
It was one of the only original songs, which ended up being one of the most covered songs. So anyway, there you go.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Okay, now you've got to put on your 50 Shades of Grey hat here. Love Me Like You Do was Ellie Goulding's first #1 single in Australia. True or false?
I am so confused now as to what that's got to do with 50 Shades of Grey, because I haven't seen it.
It was one of the songs from 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, the question again then?
Yep. Love Me Like You Do was Ellie Goulding's first #1 single in Australia.
True?
Yep, was true. Yep. Okay. Ella Hooper is from the band Killing Heidi. That was Killing Heidi.
I'm going to say false.
No, the question was Ella Hooper was from the band, and the answer was Killing Heidi.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. No, I actually thought the screen froze for a second there.
I'm doing a little bit of a robot dance. Who recorded Jenny from the Block?
J-Lo.
Yep. Hey, you got it. Well, let's see if you get this one. This is one question that Chelsea got wrong. What was Kelly Clarkson's debut song?
Oh my gosh. This would have to be like mid-90s, right?
Oh,
No?
no,
Or
nah,
2000s?
2000s. Yeah, maybe late 2000s.
I actually have no clue. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no.
If you tell me, I'll probably know the song, but
Miss Independent.
oh,
So there you go. Anyway,
okay. Yep.
that's all our questions.
Sorry. That was an abysmal failure on my part. That's yeah.
Nah, it's all a bit of fun. All righty, well, I'm going to let you get going because you've been, where are you? You're in Victoria, so you're getting late over there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a sort of 7:30ish, and
Yep.
gotta get to baby's next feed. So
Yep.
yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us so late in the evening, and best of luck with the single "I Am Enough," and really good luck with the album or the EP.
Thank you so much.
It's coming out.
Yeah. We're really
And
looking forward to the launch party on the 2nd of June at the Top in Town. So
yep.
check out their website for tickets.
I think we've got it on our website, on our gig guide as well, so that people can head to Pop Rock Radio and get the obviously gig guide there. But thank you very much. The best of luck with everything. I hope it goes really swimmingly for you and goes really well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and if anybody's looking to find me online, not on MySpace anymore. Instagram, Candice Monique _ the optics. And then also there's a artist page on Facebook for Candice Monique and the optics, so you can check us out there. And then also the Women of Soul pages on Women of Soul AU on Insta and Facebook. So.
And all the links will be in the bottom of the description of this video as well, so people will be able to go there and jump straight across.
Yeah.
So, too easy. Thank you. Have a good night.
Great. Thanks so much.
Don't know how long it's been since things felt this right. Hustling day and night, so unsatisfied. Suddenly I could see I was my worst enemy. My own negativity gets in the best of me. When I get home and take my clothes off and accept me as I am, the weight of the world falls off my shoulders. Cause now I understand I gotta show you love cause you're my body. And I know that nobody's gonna love me till I can love myself. I get emotional, it's not just physical. I got a private love affair. It's taking me some time to treat myself this kind. Now I don't worry about nobody else. Now I respect and love myself. Yeah. It's time to do something that's been long overdue. I'm tired of being criticized, believing what's untrue. When I get home and take my clothes off and accept me as I am, the weight of the world falls off my shoulders. Cause now I understand I gotta show you love cause you're my body. And I know that nobody's gonna love me till I can love myself. I get emotional, it's not just physical. I got a private love affair. It's taking me some time to treat myself this kind. Now I don't worry about nobody else. Now I respect and love myself. Give it up for Miss Violet on the trumpet. I get emotional. It's not just physical. I got a private love affair. It's taking me some time to treat myself this kind. Now I don't worry about nobody else. Now I respect their love. I get emotional. It's not just physical. I got a private love affair. It's taking me some time to treat myself this kind. Now I don't worry about nobody else. Now I respect and love myself. I am enough. Sing it with me. I am enough. Sing it loud. I am enough. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am enough. Oh, yeah. I am enough. I am enough. Thank you so much.